Okay.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Sunflower Nation's Women in Leadership podcast. I'm so excited to have with us today Miss LaRaq Lewis, who is the founder of Free Reads and just an amazing woman as a whole.
Oh.
And she has been generous enough and kind enough to share her journey with us. So, LaRaq, why don't you tell us a little bit about the things that you are doing right now? And then we'll go backwards into how you got where you actually are today.
Okay, so it's a lot of things. So hold fast to your safety belts or whatever the term is. I am founder of Free Reads Educational Mentoring Program, where we mentor boys and girls of color for reading. You know, it's all about the passion of reading. That's a passion of mine. As a youth and still as an adult, I am a dyslexic. And so reading was very difficult for me. And so it'd be great if I had this type of mentoring program as someone who enjoyed reading, but really couldn't read that well. And also I started that for my son, who also is dyslexic. So who does not like to read. So it's for people who love to read and children who do not love to read. I am also a former online radio host of the Sisterhood Radio that used to air on iAxis Radio. iAxis Radio with my cousin, and we did that for a couple of years when we focused on Black womanhood. So that's why I really love and enjoy this platform. And I still love and enjoy the platform of podcasting and things like that. I'm also the founder of Breathe and Vibe meditation sessions, where I am a beginning yoga teacher. I am a certified yoga teacher. I did that for 6 months last year, which was such a transforming journey. I'm also well devoted to the community, in the community where I live in, where I serve and support the community members. I make sure that African-American people are heard and acknowledged, and so are our holidays. And so I'm chairperson of the Juneteenth committee in my town. And I believe that is it.
That's amazing. That's it. Like, that's nothing.
I think that's it.
Just this. Oh, yeah. And this too.
Right. I was like,
But
did I
that's it.
off? Yeah.
You forgot you're a mom, right? You started
How
off
can
by
I not
saying
forget
that.
that I am a mom? First and foremost, I am a mother of 3 children, 2 teenagers and 1 preteen. And that is actually one of my greatest joys, is to be their mother. All the things that I do and I share, any of my accomplishments, I owe to them and I do for them. And so that's another part of my life.
I think that's amazing. I think, it's interesting as I listen to all of the different things that you do. And we know each other on a personal level,
Mhm.
but I didn't know you were doing so much. I knew about Free Reads for sure.
Yeah.
But I just learned about the yoga.
Uh-huh.
I just learned about the community involvement.
Yeah.
There's just so much going on.
Mhm.
And, I'll say, how do you manage it all?
People always say that to me. Like, you do a lot. For about 10 years, Celine LaRaq did not do anything. I did not do anything. I think the only thing I did was go to work if I wasn't laid off of a job, and I did nothing. Of course, I was mothering and birthing children. Of course, that is a big deal. But outside of that, I didn't do anything. And I always looked forward to do something, but did not know how to start. And I was afraid to start, and I did not believe I can start. So I kind of stayed in this position of like just being just still. And
Hmm.
so after I got over that hump, I went out and I was like, I'm really interested in running. And I started running for Black Girls Run and all these marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks. And so I started doing that, and I kind of broke out this shell that I can do this. Because I remember sitting and watching the New York City Marathon when I just gave birth to my son, my first son. I said, you know what? I want to do that before I'm 40. years later. I did not do the New York City Marathon, but I did other half marathons and 5Ks and 10Ks. So that is a goal that I believe I accomplished. And I'm still looking forward to doing the New York City Marathon if I make it.
You know, it's funny. That has always been a goal of mine too, is to
Mhm.
be able not even to do the New York City Marathon. That is not my interest at all, but just to do a 5K. That's
Yeah. Well,
3.1
let's
miles,
go.
right?
You could do 3.1 miles. You can walk it. You
I
can run it. You
have
can skip
a
it. You can jump
phobia
it.
of running.
Oh.
I remember early on, I must have been in like a teen or something. There was a New York City Marathon,
Mhm.
and I believe it was a Black male. I don't quote me on any of this because it was so long ago. But I do remember that he ran the marathon,
Mhm.
and right after he finished running, he collapsed and died.
That happens. I mean,
And from
that
that
does
point forward,
happen.
I don't know, it just
Yeah.
went into my head like,
Yeah.
girl, you're not running no.
Right. Right.
You could
Right.
do a little wog.
Right. Right.
You
That
are not
happens
running.
though. You have to, even people who are the most fit, that
Right.
you would think that, wow, they do have some underlying issues, and that does happen. Um, but we have to focus on the small steps, right? Like if we can walk a mile, we can walk a half mile. Then 2 weeks later, can we walk a mile? And we do
Listen, I
baby
could
steps.
walk.
Oop,
I
oop,
could walk a
yeah.
26 mile.
Oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I could walk it.
Walking is no joke. Okay.
But the running, I don't, it's just something in my mind that I definitely
Yep.
need to work towards getting over, because I will start, like I did couch to 5K,
Yeah.
and
I started with that
as
too.
soon as it got to the actual running part,
Mhm.
like a jog, I was okay with. And I think it's about at like week 2.5 that it's like, okay, run. And I'm like, I think I'm done with this
I
app.
mean, you know what? That happened because what you witnessed also, but there's people who actually taken a fall and broken limbs and stuff.
Right.
And that also kind of
It's
prohibits some
trauma.
people want to do it. Right. It's trauma.
Right.
I tripped before in high school running a race. I never forget this. This was embarrassing. Doing a relay. I was the anchor, and I got the baton and I fell in front of a whole stadium of people. And I was like, you know what? I'm never doing this again. And I quit. I quit the track team.
Oh,
Like that day, I went home on a bus with my hoodie over my head, walked home, and I didn't even go back to practice. Like, here's my uniform, not doing it. And I regret that because I should have,
as you should,
I
right.
should have
And
just
didn't your
jumped back
coach reach
on
out
and
to you? Did you have
nope,
no?
nope, nobody coached me into nothing.
So I think that's a good thing. I want to bring us back, right? Because I think I took us a little sidetrack with the running situation.
But
But
you
I
know
think that's
what?
a good point, right? You were a dedicated athlete, you were running, you had a misstep,
Mhm.
and you decided, okay, I'm going to quit, which happens a lot in life. It may not
Yes.
necessarily be with track, but you're doing something, you're focused, you're excited about it, you have something goes wrong, and then you quit,
Yep.
right? And I think so often what gets people back on that saddle,
Mhm.
you know, is having some type of a mentor or a coach to pull you back
Yes.
and say, you know what, we all make mistakes. This
Yes.
was yours. It's okay. Get back on the team. Right.
Absolutely.
And it's
Someone to
unfortunate
support.
that you did not have that. But as you look back on your life, as far as your professional journey, your
Mhm.
personal journey, when you've had other hurdles or challenges that you've had to overcome, did you have some people in your life that you could say, you know what, these were my go-to mentors, these were the people who would pull me up?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my mother was my number one encourager. When I wanted to quit, she would say, "No, just do it again." Sometimes she would encourage me so much I wouldn't even tell her if I quit. I didn't want her to. I didn't even want her to try to convince me to go back because it was fear. For me, when I quit something or stopped or ended because of fear, and that holds you back. And then as you get older, you recognize and know what your fears, and they turn into wants and things you don't want. And then you will say, I'm not afraid of this, I just don't want to do it. So you might say, oh, that's running is cool, but that doesn't mean I'm going to run. I might skip or walk. I'll do that. And you can still be accomplished. You can still meet your goal. You can still do a marathon. You can still do those things. Just as you get older, you recognize those wants, and you're, nah, I'm not going to want it.
Right.
Right. So
So it's great to hear that you had a good supportive mom.
yeah,
You have your three children.
my three kids.
So tell me about the journey of how you went from a high school track runner to becoming all that you are today. What
Let me
happened in the middle of the story?
let me not glorify my 2 days of track running. That's just one
Listen,
sport.
I glorify my sports career. I have to share. People always laugh at this. I'm like, oh, I played volleyball in college, and I did. I was on the
Uh-huh.
team. I had the
Awesome.
uniform. I'm in the team photos, but I swear to you, I never played in one game. I was just there to like hold the bench down, like, go ahead, girl, you got this, Blue Angels. Woo! But I never played in one game. I was
You
so
never
sad.
played in a game.
They never put me in, not even for, and I went to all the practices.
Yo,
Every single practice. I was at every single practice. I was so proud to say I was on the volleyball game, the volleyball team, but never got
that's
put in
dedication.
one
That's
game.
dedication. I know I would have definitely quit this. Got me in this uniform looking stupid. Got my mother in the
Oh, I
audience.
was cute in my little shorts. I was not looking stupid.
But yeah, so I'm not gonna glorify that the track because definitely I wasn't a track star. I think I wanted to be, but I was not. I was trying to find something that I wanted to fit in somewhere. I knew I was an athlete, but fear was like holding on to me. So, I loved basketball, but after fouling out of each game, that kind of stopped me. And then other things. So what I'm saying is I always wanted my hands in something that I enjoyed, but fear is the one that kind of like caught me and I never finished. And so I've learned that now I'm not going to have fear stop me, or we're not going to call it fear. If I don't like something, I'm just not going to do it. If I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it well, I don't want it. I don't want it. And that's it. And that's where I am right now. Even in the jobs that I select or the jobs that select me, if I feel, and this is actually my prayer, if I say, God, if I cannot do this very well, I don't want this position. I don't want this opportunity. If I'm not
How
going
do
to
you
be,
grow? How do you grow
what
if
do you
you're
mean?
not challenging yourselves to do things that you don't feel like you do well?
Oh no, there is growth in it. There's definitely challenges in it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I say that prayer first. When I get it, I'm like, okay, what did I get myself into? This is hard. However, I remember what I prayed for and I keep on going. Like for me, it starts right there. For everything that I do, even with my yoga, even with like me campaigning for my community, even in my current job I have right now, my 9 to 5, I want to do it well. And every part of that is challenging. Every part. There's nothing in my life that is easy. Nothing. I think
Right.
the easy, not even going to sleep, sometimes that's even hard. You know what I'm saying?
Preach.
Falling asleep is sometimes hard.
Yes,
So everything is
definitely.
challenging. You have to realize that. You have to understand that. When you're younger, you're like, oh, I just can't wait things to be easy in my life. Things do get easier, but it's not completely like, easy. It's not. Even if you make a whole bunch of money, it's not easy making that money, not even to maintain that money,
Right.
not even for somebody to take it from you or ask you for that money. Nothing is easy. So recognizing your challenges, understanding that challenges are going to come, and figuring out how to get through those challenges. How do I get through these challenges? And so that's where I am right now, which is it brings peace. Acknowledging that brings peace. You can grow in all that. You definitely can. And any hobby that you like, you might like art, and then you finish your art piece, and you're like, now this look a whole mess. Now I thought I enjoyed doing this, a whole mess. But get better. You might enjoy it. Does it look like Jacob Lawrence's artwork? No, it does not. But did you enjoy with the red strokes and the blue strokes and just enjoy the peace of mind? Yes. That's maybe what you want to get to, peace of mind, not really the piece that looks like it could be sold at an auction for
Right.
$10
Right.
million, but the peace of mind. And I
You know,
think,
when I was starting this business, I'm someone who likes to have everything perfectly in order before I start, right? I need to do all of my research first. I need to have all my documents first. And someone told me, just start.
yeah,
Start in fear.
yeah,
It's okay if you're afraid. Just keep
mhm,
moving in that fear.
mhm,
And I think if I had waited for everything to be perfect, I'd still be waiting right now. I wouldn't be doing anything. I would still be like gathering data. So I'm glad that I started in fear, and it's okay to learn as you grow and as you develop. So I think that's a really important message that you definitely sent out to our audience today.
Yeah.
So Celine, tell me, you mentioned a 9 to 5. Tell us a little bit about that part of your
It's
life.
classified.
Okay. Okay.
No.
No, listen, some people are not comfortable closing where they work.
It's actually, I don't want to mention that because it kind of is classified a little bit. And I'll talk to you off air why. But what I'm doing makes an impact for my state. It impacts the children in the state. I'm representing a whole bunch where on a platform where I am right now, and I'm privileged to do that. I'm thankful to do that, and I don't take that lightly. I prayed for a position like this, and people, Black women, we need to be in leadership roles. And most of us are in leadership roles, but we have to make correct decisions, and we have to be very in line in what's going on. So being in line in what's going on in your law and policy, what's going on with the government, you have to know these things, to make some action. So that kind of sums it up.
So definitely, like I remember speaking to you at one point years ago, and we're talking about challenges within our roles that we were in at that time. How do you go from, being kind of in a borderline hostile work environment to now doing something where you feel like you're being impactful and really making a difference within your community and state?
A lot of it's doing your homework. You have to do some research. How can you get to the position that you want to get to? What moves do you need to make to get there? What education do you need to get there? What training do you need to get there? Ask people on your current positions, like, hey, someone that you trust, what are my grows and what are my glows? What do I need to grow in? When you look in things that you want to grow in, focus on those things. Like, okay, I'm not well at doing this. How can I be better at organizing? How can I be better at presenting myself? How can I be better as a speaker? If you want certain roles, sometimes you have to speak, and you have to speak well. Not everybody can do that.
Right.
And also, not everyone. When I see Michelle Obama, when she's speaking in front of a gazillion people, I'm like in awe, because I could never. Okay, I could never. I would have fainted walking to the stage. And so I look at that and say, well, how can I be a better speaker on a smaller level? And let me just, practice in front of my children, and practice and move into roles when you are comfortable enough to speak. I do not like speaking in front of people. However, I'm always asked to. And I feel like, why? Why am I in front of all these people? But I feel like once I'm up there, again, God kind of just moves through me, and I get the job done, but it takes practice. I don't know if I even answered that question enough. You kind of.
You did. You did. So let's go back, because I feel like we're jumping around, which is totally okay. I think that keeps people interested, right? So after high school, what happened? Where did you go to college? What was that experience like for you?
I attended Ramapo College of New Jersey at PWI, and I loved it. I loved it. I wasn't the best high school student. I was basically making C's in high school. Maybe my 12th grade year, I was making all A's. But when you are applying to college, they don't care about that 12th grade year very much. But I think that's where I kind of grew in my education and wanted to learn more. Like, I wanted to learn more and be good at it. I knew I wasn't good at it in high school, because I was never the one to make the honor roll or anything like that. When I got to college and learned that I was dyslexic, like Theo Huxtable, I don't know if you guys knew that reference.
Of course.
But when he got to college,
I remember that episode.
Right. So I call it I found Theo in college. And once I took this exam or did this study, they were like, do you know you are dyslexic? And I was like, I'm what? Okay, that explains it. That explains it. And so once I found myself learning to teaching myself how to learn and receive information, I began to grow. I began to
Mm,
flourish because I was like, wow, I can do it this way. Oh, I can read it this way. Great, And so I had to reteach myself how to learn at 18 years old.
right.
And that's what I did. And I went on. And after I graduated from college, I went to get my master's and I went to get another master's. And so I'm always pushing forward. So when people say, well, no, I wasn't a really good student, doesn't mean that you can't accomplish things. You know what I'm saying? Like I became a good student because I knew how to learn. I knew how to receive information. That's
Right.
what learning is, receiving
Once you
information.
know
Once you
what
learn the
works for
technique,
you.
right? And
Right.
that's not easy. So when I became a teacher and I taught kids who had learning disabilities, I would say to them, let's find a way for you to learn in your classroom. How can I teach you how to learn? How do you learn best? What modality do you can learn from? And that's what happened. Some kids were visual learners, some kids were kinesthetic learners, some kids were audio learners. Like, and who knew that there was different ways to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how I focused on that. And so that's what happened at the high school. And that's how I became a avid reader, um, and really just blew up my world in a good way with all these books. I mean, I had books as a child. I had plenty of books. I looked at the pictures and I probably read like 2 pages, but I couldn't sustain reading the entire book because I just would get lost in, oh, it's a butterfly. I didn't know how to keep my attention, but I know I loved books. I loved hearing books. It used to be, this is old school, girl. I used to listen to something called the Get Along Gang. I don't know if
Mm-hmm. I
anybody
remember.
remembers the Get
I
Along Gang,
remember.
but I used to love just hearing the stories of the Get Along Gang. I loved Sesame Street. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
really did. Like I really loved Sesame Street. It was Channel 13 up here. PBS, like New York had, New York, New Jersey had Channel 13. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to sit like this because I love like the puppets and the Muppets and what I was learning and receiving information. So that's how I knew when I got older, well, I like to see things, hear things, and write things. And that's how I learn. I need all those three modalities for me able to learn. Some people could just look at it, like one of my sons, look at it, all right, got it. I'm like, that's it?
Mm-hmm.
That took you 3 seconds. Me, it took me a little longer than that. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I had to learn that was a skill I needed
That's
for
what you needed.
success.
Right.
Yeah,
And I think so often we have conditioned our kids to think that they have to be able to do it the same way that everyone else does.
right.
A lot of teachers, it's like, okay, like you should be able to do this in 5 minutes. I'm allotting 5 minutes. And when 7 minutes rolls around and that student is still working on that, assignment, it's like, oh man, I'm stupid. I'm the dumb one in the room because everybody
Yep,
else is
it's
done and I'm
exactly what you
not.
think. Yep,
And it's a terrible feeling for a kid to have.
it's absolutely.
I remember growing up, my sister was like similar to your son in that she could look at a page and she knows everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I would be there like, and studying for hours, hours, hours. And we would make the same grades, right? I
Mm-hmm.
was an A student. I was a very good student,
Mm-hmm.
but my grades did not come natural to me. Like I worked my butt
Mm-hmm.
off to get those grades. And it would frustrate me when I would see other people like my sister, or my friends just
Just
like,
taking the
who
test and
just
it's
wake up
fine.
and took the test. And it was like, you got an A and you didn't even study? Oh,
Amazing. That is a gift.
right. It definitely is. But I think it's also a gift that when you grow into your learning style and you learn how to navigate it, that's a beautiful thing also.
It's a
Because
beautiful thing
one,
to know your skill.
you know what you need to do to be successful,
Mhm.
but two, then you're also able to provide grace to people who need it, who
Yes.
have those same challenges. So
Yes.
as I teach my classes and I see students, who have similar challenges, I'm like, it's okay. There's actually a TED talk that I show at the beginning of my classes. I'm not going to promote the speaker, but it's a great talk about basically a young man who, starts off really in a really challenging childhood
Hmm.
and starts to feel like he's done because he doesn't move as fast as everybody else does. And it's not until he learns how his learning style is that he's able to, really navigate that system and thrive in college.
Right. Right.
So tell me, Celine, a little bit about your personal life, right? You got 3 kids, you're super successful, right? And one of the
Thank
things
you for
that
that.
I think women are a little bit afraid of, I always hear this question, can we have it all? Can we have it all? And everybody has different answer to that, right? And all means different things to different
I was just
people.
about to say that.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you first, when you think about having it all, what does that look like to you? And do you feel like you currently have it all?
At the moment, I have it all. And my have it all right now is, because it changes. My have it all changes. I can say 20 years ago, my have it all did not look like this. I thought that my future have it all will have this, and that. It does change. My have it all right now is that I live in a house that my 3 children think out of well, and they're big and they're doing well in school. I have it all is that I have a car that works. I have a job to go through. I have an appointment to get my nails done. Like seriously, those the little things is my have it all. But that can change, you know what I'm saying? It could be, well, are you making this amount of money? You know what I'm saying? Do you got a boo? Do you have a man? Is that happening all too? My have it all right now is fine with me. And I had to learn to accept that this is pretty okay. I'm pretty all right where I am right now. You have to recognize what is good in your present moment and be thankful for it, because it could go the other way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It could definitely go the other way. 10 years ago, like 10 years ago, I was married. I had, I think, all 3 of my kids, and lived in a nice neighborhood. I had a good job. I had a car, had a couple of cars. I did not have it all. It was the most difficult life I've ever lived in that moment. I did not have it all at all. But from the outside, people are like, oh, you married. Oh, you're so cute. Oh, you got a good job. And none of that was having it all. I mean, I'm thankful for my children, but where I was mentally and physically at that time, I was not really myself. So I did not have it all. You can't have it all and not be who you are. You know what I'm saying? You cannot. In that space, that wasn't it. Flashback. My kids are still here. My house is right here. My car is here. My job is here. My man is not, but I have it all.
That's interesting, though. Sometimes you need to remove things from your life in order to have it all.
Yep. Yeah. So right now, I feel I'm grateful for that.
So is that something you would want to pursue again? Would you want to remarry at some point?
Yeah, I would definitely want to remarry. I still feel like I want to pursue that. I think that nobody's here on this earth to be alone. That's just my personal thoughts. I feel like everyone needs to share their ups and downs with. Someone told me that a very long time ago. Someone would like to, you would like to be booed up, is it going to happen at this present moment? Who knows? But time waits for no one, right? And you can't sit around rocking back and forth, listening to, I don't know, the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. And and Mary J. Blige is My Life. You know what I'm saying? You can't listen to that and whoa, time is going to go on. That's what I've learned. You know what I'm saying? So I know that if it's coming, I'm going to welcome it. I'm going to embrace it. I think at this age, I'll be more vulnerable and accepting of different things. I'm a different person. There's things that I would take, things that I would not take. And that's the gift of having it all. I know what I will be able to take, and I know what I won't take at all. And so right there is just blessing and acknowledging that.
That's called growth.
That's growth.
That's beautiful.
So
it's funny. Anytime I have a single woman on the show, I always say, so what's your criteria? Let's put it out there.
I
You
tell you,
never
my
know
phone
who's
number, can I put my
listening.
phone number across the screen? Like available. Um, you know what it is? Someone asked me, like, what do you look for in someone? And it has transformed, like that changes too. You know what I'm saying? It
Absolutely.
changes. It doesn't even become the physical. It doesn't become the physical aspect of like the human body. Um, you know, when you're younger, I want somebody tall, he has to be 6'4" and all that stuff. For me now, it's kindness.
Mm,
Kindness is such a beautiful and attractive thing.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I just, if someone is kind, that's attractive. Um, the eye, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I believe that 100%. Because what you might think is
Agreed.
cute, I'm like, okay, that's good for you. So, word up, right? So, but so when I see someone and something about them just glows, then I'm like, oh, okay. And then kindness, it's just
Mm,
beautiful. Everything else will come after that. You know what I'm saying? Like you just have to have a good heart, um, and a kind soul, you know? I mean, there's more to that, but that is the most that I look at.
okay.
Yeah.
So you all heard it here. Okay. You know what the criteria is. If you have a brother, an uncle, a cousin, you know, Miss Raquel is looking for somebody to
Yeah.
help her enhance her all. Good for you.
Right. So we can go, sail the blue seas.
That's right. Like you said, you don't believe that we're meant to be alone. So
No, I don't.
get you
No.
someone. So when you think about your journey, what do you think was probably the most difficult part for you personally or professionally as you grew?
Um, the most difficult part is so funny. It's like knowing yourself. Learning yourself is not that easy. I feel like I had to relearn who I was, especially after going through a a transformation of life, like a big change, like a divorce or a separation. You kind of don't know who you are anymore, and so once you acknowledge who you are, it's like a it's such an opening. And so once I figured that part out, I was able to like move in different areas. And some of these things are just enlightened right, currently in the last 2 years. I was just enlightened on some of these things. And I did not know what to do. And not saying that I know what to do right now, 100%, but I know how to get there. When you're in a struggling position and you don't know how to get out, is the most, it's like hell. Like you're in this position, but you don't know where to go. That's such a depressing part of anyone's life.
Can
The
you tell us
joy,
about that? That whatever it was that was causing this level of angst and depression, and how you overcame it.
um, not well, one thing is that not knowing who to trust, putting my trust in the wrong people and believing the wrong people. Your focus is not the same when you're depressed. Your focus is not the same. Your money is not the same. How you spend it is not the same. um Also, you might look good on the outside, but on the inside you could be crumbling. um Not knowing how to get out, and certain things cause that. It affects how you work. It affects the people around you. It affected how I mothered. And when that right there, I said at the beginning, that's the most important part of my life is me being mother. If you're in a state of depression, you can barely mother. And when I found that out and you know, understood that, I knew I was in a horrible place. You know, when you can't mother, you're yelling too much, you're screaming too much. It's hard for you to clean your house. You're eating constantly, eating. You're not eating the right foods. You're ordering junk every single second. Um, that was what it was for me.
That was your coping.
That
Mhm.
was that was what I was doing. And then again, friending people who weren't really my friend, and that goes for family. as well, you know, doing so much at all at one time, not really finishing anything, you know. You learn to cope because, you have to give an appearance of joy. But if you don't really have joy, it doesn't move anything. And then you start having crazy thoughts in your mind. You have thoughts that would be suicidal. You have thoughts of unwantingness and loneliness and all kinds of crazy things that happen in your life. And you find that you cannot talk to anybody about that. Black women in particular, we found years ago, there weren't platforms like when I did the Sisterhood Radio or platforms like the Sunflower network that you're doing. There weren't platforms for Black women like this, that we were able to talk and be transparent about things like vitamin D, that we need vitamin D.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a lot of it, then you have like this sadness. Who knew that affected your mood until you open a book and read it there? I started learning about that process. I meant to tell you that I also have a podcast called Daughter of the Yam. And I started that pod. I'm sorry?
Tell us about it.
Oh, so I started Daughter of the Yam because in the midst of COVID, because I found myself in this overwhelm and sadness, like everyone, like the world was in the pandemic. But I tried to figure out, well, how did Black women in 1892 feel? Were they depressed? Were they sad? Okay, because I feel like, what did they do to survive? Because I see old pictures of aged Black women, and did they ever get postpartum? And the answer is yes. But my next question was, well, how did they overcome it?
They faked it.
How did they overcome it? Like,
I think a big part of it was being in a somewhat of a state of denial and not even acknowledging that those feelings were real.
And
right. I think
also told that it wasn't real too.
Right. That I don't think that they were told that it wasn't real. They were told that it was not acceptable. Right. And so that's how they became these strong Black women. Right. The whole theory of the strong Black women stems, from slavery.
It sure does.
When women were required to do things, Black women, let me rephrase that, Black women were required to do things that were cruel, unusual, and white women would never be asked to do those things.
Like birthing.
But exactly. Kids. But the reason why it was okay was because we needed to justify that Black women were not inhumane. Right. They were not like regular people.
Right.
They were not our precious white women.
Right.
And so they don't have feelings. It's okay. They're almost like the mules, right? That's what they call it.
Right.
And so they're strong. They're able to take it, and on the rare occasion that somebody would, open their mouth and say something, they would sell their kids off. Right. And so you learned, let me just be quiet. Let me smile and take it, because if I say something really bad is going to happen.
Right.
And then that is then passed down from generation to generation to generation. So now we have this generation of women who oftentimes, and I think this is really actually our generation, who feel like, okay, I have to be strong. But now we're kind of, because we're so educated, right? Right now, Black women are being educated at the highest rate than ever before. Right. And so because we're being educated, because we're reading about it, we're like, whoa. I don't want to be strong all the time.
Right.
If being strong means I can't have a moment of vulnerability, then I don't want to be strong.
Right.
Because I want all the niceties that the white women get. I want that same privilege. I want to be able to cry if I'm feeling sad. I want to be able to say, I need help. And, we've been conditioned to just be like, suck it up and take it. And no more. We can't, it's not sustainable. Right. That's not what I want for my kids.
Right. We definitely have been taught that. And that is a generational thing that we've been taught to just take it. We've been taught to take unhappy marriages. We've been taught to take abuse. We've been taught to take abuse from the workplace, that we have to change our physical appearance in order to fit in. We've been taught to take that our hue of our skin color was not good, so we need to lighten it up. Certain colors don't belong on us, certain things that our bodies, we've been taught these things. And these things really have been a damaging feature in our people. It has been damaging. And it's a generational thing that's generational damage. And that is so hard to kind of unravel all that stuff. And yes, I believe this is the generation that's waking up. We're saying we want to be soft.
Right.
We want, we want somebody, to check in on us. We don't mind, people who like physical touch, hugs and a little rubbing on the back.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Our grandmothers did not get that. Our grandmothers who birthed, I know mine, both of my grandmothers birthed lots of children, but was never gotten that that security or that peace of mind or that loving. And they birthed a lot of kids. And I'm sure postpartum was in there someplace. I'm sure it was.
Absolutely.
We never spoke about it, but I know after my second child, I was like, what am I going through? What's happening? And then they didn't want to talk about it because no one else was talking about it. So I don't want to talk about it.
And that's why I think these platforms are so important, right? This is important to me because my hope with this is that even if it's just one woman listening,
yes,
and they hear, wow, Celine, who's the founder of Free Reads, who's a yoga instructor, who's a community activist, who has some confidential job.
Wow.
This woman who's doing all of these things, she had postpartum.
Yep.
Well, I guess it's okay if I have it too then.
And
that's what I really want to get out to the world is that we are not alone in the things that we are feeling. We need to normalize it. We need to talk about it, and we need to be able to support each other.
Right. And that's the main thing. We need to normalize it. That's where you hit it on the nail there. And so in my podcast, I look in history where we've been trying to overcome that. And it started off in 1892. A lady named Anna Cooper, when she talked about Black feminism, believe it or not. In other words, she's like known as the founder of Black feminism. And the first thing she noticed was like, okay, so in race relations, and this black and white thing, and it's Frederick Douglass and all these folks, how come no one's asking Black women about this change? How come no one's asking us? She said that. She's saying that in 1892, she said that.
Right.
And then it goes on, and even before her, when there was Sojourner Truth, even she said that as a Black woman.
Ain't I a woman?
In that whole speech, in that whole entire speech, she in that whole entire speech, if you really look through that, she had all those kids and she didn't know one of them. And she was saying, well, I'm not a woman. I know I had these kids. I know my loins look like women loins. Am I not like this? And so I look into all those historical Black women in time and see how they overcome. And I reached a point in the late 60s and 70s where the movement of feminism, there was a movement of feminism, but there was something called intersectionality, which is
absolutely
Black feminism. Audre Lorde and Bell Hooks was out there and just doing their thing because there was a big difference.
Absolutely.
So I started reading into that. And that's what my podcast is, just bringing those things out into light. You know what I'm saying? And that these Black women have gone through things. You know what I'm saying? They've gone through things. And this is how they overcome it. This is how they overcame these things or learned how to make sure they don't go to the dark side, which is like suicide, which is like ending someone else's life, when it's like going to jail, when it's being poverty, homelessness. All that stuff happens when you're depressed and then you don't overcome it.
So I'm going to bring us back, Celine. You mentioned walking around with a smile on your face, even though you had all of these emotions, right?
Yeah.
A big part of the research that I've done on the Strong Black Woman is around, women feeling like they have to wear this mask, right? And so at what point did you take your mask off and say, I am hurting, I need to change?
After the second season of the radio show, believe it or not,
So was there like a pivotal moment? Was there like something that was said that triggered you that you were like, wait?
The women that were on my show, there were women on my show who were phenomenal. Like t-shirt. They were phenomenal. And they've been through struggles and struggles. And here I am on this platform, I'm joking and laughing and like, hey, all that stuff. And I'm listening to these women go through these things. And I'm like, I still feel that way though. I still feel it. So I was like wearing a mask. And then I became transparent in situations. I became transparent and like knowing what domestic violence looked like and it felt like, and what depression looked like and felt like. And I didn't want nobody to know, like, come on now, I didn't want nobody to know I was going through some stuff. Like I wanted to be strong because people thought I was strong, you know? I think that helped me be more transparent. And it is some things that I can't share all the time because I'm still working through those things. But I noticed that if you are able to share like into an audience and platforms like yours, and there's one woman who actually can get up and say, I want to survive today, you have achieved something.
That was the goal. Right.
You have achieved something. And so, you know, the women that were on my show, the women that I read about in all these books I have over there, I'm saying that I can make it. Now, is it like happy-go-lucky and am I clicking my heels and running to the streets? No, not all the time. You know, sometimes I do have moments of like, you know, sadness, but I know for now that I know not to sit there. Sometimes you sit there and think about what your next move is, but you don't sit there and you don't sulk over things. Well, that's how things get deep. But how do you get out of that? You got to find your way. Some people say, well, how do I find my way? Try to read something. Try to look on positive social media outlets, you know, look on things like the sunflower thing that you're doing. Look on
sunflowernation.net.
My bad. Let me say it all. You know, look for things that bring positive noise in your life because we get wrapped up on the nonsense all the time.
Right.
The news is crazy. The world is crazy. And so we put that all in our heads and then we start not understanding how do we get out of all this? You have to learn how to unplug. You have to learn to find what do you love to do. For me, I love to write in my journal. I've been doing that. I've been helping myself since I was a little kid. I did not know when I was journaling at 6, 7, 8, and 9 years old that I was actually helping myself. I didn't know that's what it was, but I noticed I have journals here when I was pregnant with my first child and all the feeling and some things in there that I can't even go back to.
Yeah, I was just about to say that I also keep my journals.
Yeah.
And, you know, every now and then I want to go and open one and I'll start reading and I'm like, no, I don't want to continue that.
Yeah. I keep those there. And one day when my children are adults, you know what I'm saying? They can read it. Now is not the time.
Mm-hmm.
And some things like even before I start opening things and I just closed it. I didn't want to go back there. I didn't want to go back there, but I'm glad that I kept it. I'm glad that I was in the moment and I kept it. Like I said, I have 3 journals over there from before I had kids to when I had kids, what I was feeling in postpartum. It's just madness, absolute madness.
Right.
And I thank God for the growth, you know, that I'm not there now.
And that's the blessing of journaling.
Yeah.
It's being able to go back and see things might not be perfect today, but I'm not where I was 2 years ago.
Absolutely. Like it's definitely, I'm not there. Sometimes you have to do this alone. Sometimes you have to just stay away from everyone to kind of figure things out on your own. And I've done that. I have collected my thoughts together and did things on my own because I also went through of just wanting be everybody's friend. I want to be everybody's friend because I love the concept of family. Like I love the concept of family. You know what I'm saying? I love hugs and family life. But I was reaching out to so many people. I wasn't getting the family. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't. So it starts where? It starts in your home. It starts in one place. It starts with yourself. You have to love yourself before you want to do anything else. It won't work if you don't.
I agree.
It won't work. And so I deep dived, dive, that's a word? I think so. I
You
deep
took a
dive.
deep dive.
There we go. I'm like, was that right? Okay, correct me. The dyslexia comes out one time or another. Into all these books. Like I fed myself some really amazing books. You know, Sisters of the Yam by Bell Hooks changed my whole life. Okay, changed my whole life. Reading the words of Audre Lorde just changes my life. Reading about the liberation movement changed my life. And I was an English major, so I was reading stuff, but now I'm reading stuff and really comprehend it's sinking in. It's making more meaning in my life because I'm grown. I'm grown now. And before I wasn't grown, I was grown, but I was like, let me just pass this class. Now I'm making it in, I'm sinking into my life and able to synthesize now. I'm reading this, I'm reading that, and this is my thoughts now. And I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing it on purpose. I'm doing all this stuff on purpose. Nobody's giving me a break.
Intentionally,
right? And you have to be intentional about these things when it comes to your mental health. You have to be. One person asked me, and I had a discussion with someone the other night, and he was like, therapy is people reach out to therapy, right? But I've learned that your therapy could be many things. Your talk therapy is what I like. Talking to someone else and getting their opinion is what I like. Seeing an actual mental health partner, mental health specialist helps as well. You got to find the right one. You can't be throwing yourself anywhere.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
That's key.
People don't tell you that. Like, see therapy. Okay, when you look online. All right, this guy
who's
right.
covered in my insurance. All right, I'll take that one.
Right, and that doesn't work.
Right,
it doesn't work. So
it takes time to find the right person.
It takes time, even for your own children. If you feel like your children need therapy, and you just throw this therapist into your child's face, and your child looking at the camera like this,
they definitely can do more damage than.
So you have to you got to take time to do that. What do you want people to help you with? How do you want them to communicate with you? You got to figure all that out. How do you like to communicate? Do you need to talk to someone every single day? Do you like to text people? Video? You have to figure all that out. It's not just one thing. It's not. It's many things. And that's so glorious about where when you're over 40, you're figuring all this out. Like, wow, it's not just this one thing. I could have all these things and freedom to do all this stuff. But you have to learn. You have to find it. You have to find it. I could be like I was 10 years ago, which was a hot mess. It was a hot mess.
So I'm going to ask you this last question because I see we are running out of time. But
reals?
I know it flies when you're having good conversation.
Right.
But listen, if you were talking to yourself 10 years ago or to another young woman right now, who is experiencing the things that you experienced, what advice would you have for her?
Try to find a way to love yourself. Try to find a way. Even my future self can tell my old self where to find it. Believe it or not, if that makes any sense. Find a way to love yourself. Find a way. That's what I'll tell Celine 10 years ago. LaRaq, I wasn't even LaRaq 10 years ago. I think I was just still Celine.
How did you become LaRaq? Tell us.
Because I love music and my middle name is Raquel. And I just like the way LaRaq sounds.
All right. I'm with it. So LaRaq, let me tell you, first of all, thank you so much for providing all of this information, for being so transparent about your journey. I know for sure that the message that you shared today is going to impact many of our listeners. So I do appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you do within our community. It is so impactful. It's so important. Reading is essential. That's how our kids progress. So please keep doing the work that you are doing.
Thank you so much for having me. This was absolutely fun. I love it. Thank you for doing what you do, Dr. Edith Banks.
Thank you. And so to my listeners, may your heart be filled with the brightest of sunflowers, even on the cloudiest of days. This is Dr. Edith Banks with the Sunflower Nation, sending you love and positive vibes. Until next time.